I am 74 years old. For 31 years, I sat in rooms that don't exist on any map. I read files that have no official record. I analyzed intelligence that most heads of state will never see in their lifetime. My name doesn't matter. It never did. In my world, names were liabilities. What matters is what I know. And what I know, I would give anything to forget. People ask me now that I am retired, now that I am old, now that I have nothing left to lose, they ask me, was it worth it? I used to smile. I used to nod. Now I just look at them. Because the honest answer is the one that scares them. And the honest answer is the one that has been slowly eating me alive since the day I walked out of that building for the last time. I thought I had time to process what I had seen, time to find peace with what I had done, time to go back to being a normal man, a father, a grandfather, a human being who sleeps through the night. I was wrong. There are things they train you for in this work. They train you to analyze without emotion. They train you to see patterns where others see noise. They train you to hold information that could collapse governments and then go home, eat dinner and say nothing. They train you very well. What they do not train you for is the moment you realize the information was never the burden. You were the burden. The moment you understand that, truly understand it, nothing is ever the same again. I remember sitting in a secure facility in 1987. There was a file on the table in front of me, thick, unremarkable on the outside. The kind of folder you would walk past without a second thought. But inside that folder was a decision, not a mistake, not an accident, a decision made by men in expensive suits, in comfortable offices, that ended the lives of thousands of ordinary people who never knew those men existed. And my job was to make sure that decision stayed invisible. I did my job. I thought I had time to make peace with that later. Later never came. What I am about to tell you is not a political statement. It is not a conspiracy theory. It is the quiet truth of a man who has seen too much, lived too long inside the machine, and is now standing outside of it, looking back with the kind of clarity that only comes when you know your time is running short. Because here is what decades inside the world's most powerful intelligence apparatus teaches you, that no training manual ever will. The greatest secret they keep is not about governments, it is about you. I grew up in a small town in Virginia. My father worked at a hardware store. My mother taught elementary school. We were not rich, we were not connected. We were the kind of family that believed, genuinely believed, that hard work and loyalty meant something. That belief is what made me perfect for the job. I was recruited at 24, fresh out of university, sharp mind, high scores. A professor I trusted handed my name to someone I had never met. 3 months later, I was sitting in a room, being told I had been selected for a career that would matter, that would serve the nation, that would make a difference. I believed every word. I was young, I was proud. I was exactly the kind of man they were looking for. The early years felt like purpose. I won't pretend otherwise. There is something deeply intoxicating about being trusted with information that the rest of the world does not have access to. You walk down an ordinary street and you know things that would change how every single person around you sees the world. It makes you feel important. It makes you feel necessary. And for a long time I confused that feeling with meaning. I thought I had found my calling. I was wrong. By my mid-30s, I had risen to a level where the files I handled were no longer abstract. They had names in them, photographs, families, real people, in real places, whose lives were being quietly shaped, disrupted, or ended based on decisions made in rooms they would never know existed. And I was the one reading those files. I was the one writing the reports. I was the one making the analysis clean, professional, and digestible, so that the men above me could make those decisions without losing sleep. I made it easy for them. I told myself I was just doing my job. My daughter was born in 19... I remember holding her in the hospital and feeling something I had never felt inside any secure facility. Stillness, complete quiet stillness. I looked at her face and I thought, this is real. This is the only thing that is real. And then 3 days later, I was back in the building, back inside the machine, reading files, writing reports, making decisions invisible. She grew up with a father who was present in the house but absent everywhere that mattered. I told myself I was protecting her. I thought I had time to be her father later. Later never came the way I imagined it. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from living two lives for too long. Not the exhaustion of the body, the exhaustion of the self. Every evening I would drive home from work, and somewhere between the secure parking lot and my front door, I would try to become a different man, a husband, a father, a neighbor who talked about lawn care and local sports. But the files followed me, not literally. I never broke protocol. I never brought documents home, but the weight of them, the knowledge of what I had seen, what I had helped happen, what I had stayed silent about, that weight had no off switch. It sat at the dinner table with us. It stood in the corner of every birthday party. It watched me from the end of the hallway when I kissed my daughter goodnight. I thought I was strong enough to carry it. I thought I was built for this. I thought the training had prepared me. I was wrong. And the cracks, the ones I had been ignoring for years, were getting wider. I just didn't see it yet. Because when you spend your career looking outward at the world's hidden truths, you become very good at hiding your own. It was a Tuesday. I remember that clearly. Not because Tuesdays are special, but because the most important moments of your life never arrive on days that feel significant. They arrive quietly, ordinarily, while you are doing something routine. I was at my desk, coffee going cold beside me, reading a new file, and then my phone rang. It was my wife. Her voice was different, not panicked, not dramatic, just quiet, in a way I had never heard before. She said, "Your daughter has been asking me why you never look at her when she talks to you." That was all. 8 seconds of words, 31 years of answer. I put the phone down. I looked at the file in front of me. It was a detailed report on a foreign communications network. 43 pages. Every word precise. Every analysis clean. And I thought, I know everything in this document. I know the names. I know the locations. I know the strategic implications. I know the history, the patterns, the threat assessments, the contingency responses. I knew all of it. And I did not know why my daughter felt invisible sitting across the dinner table from her own father. That was the moment. Not a dramatic explosion, not a breakdown in a parking lot, not some cinematic revelation under the rain. Just a Tuesday, a cold cup of coffee, and the quiet collapse of everything I had told myself I was doing this for. I drove home that evening, and I sat in my car outside the house for 40 minutes. I watched the light in the kitchen window, my wife moving around inside. Ordinary movements, ordinary life. And I understood for the first time, without any defense or justification, that I had spent 3 decades protecting a version of the world that existed in classified files and strategic briefings. But while the actual world, my world, the one with real light in a real kitchen window, had been quietly continuing without me. I thought I had time to step back into it. I was wrong. 6 months later, my wife asked me for a separation. She did not do it with anger. That would have been easier. She did it with exhaustion. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where I had eaten 10,000 silent dinners, and she said, "I don't think you ever learned how to be here, and I don't think you know that you don't know." I wanted to argue. I had spent my career being the smartest analyst in the room. I sat there and I had nothing, because she was right. And somewhere deep inside, behind all the training, behind all the clearance levels, behind all the years of making myself unreadable, I had always known she was right. I went back to the office the next morning. I sat at my desk. I opened a new file, and for the first time in 31 years, I could not make myself care about what was inside it. Not because the information wasn't important, but because I had just understood something that no intelligence briefing had ever taught me. The greatest threat to a man's life is rarely external. It lives inside him, in the choices he keeps postponing, in the presence he keeps promising, in the later that never comes. I submitted my retirement notice 4 weeks after that Tuesday. I walked out of the building, on a grey November morning. No ceremony, no speech. That is not how that world works. Just a badge handed in, a door closing behind me, and a man standing alone in a parking lot, holding 31 years of secrets, realizing he had forgotten how to simply exist. I thought the hardest part was what I had seen inside those walls. I was wrong. The hardest part was standing outside of them, finally having time, and not knowing what to do with it. Because the people I had saved it for, the family I told myself I was protecting, had learned to live without me in the spaces that mattered most. Later had come. It just hadn't waited for me. Let me tell you what 3 decades inside the world's most powerful intelligence machine actually teaches you. Not the operational lessons, not the analytical frameworks, not the tradecraft, the human lessons, the ones they never put in any manual, the ones you only find after you have lost enough to finally see clearly. I spent my career studying deception, state-level deception, institutional deception, the kind of deception that moves borders and ends governments. And what I found after all of it is that the most sophisticated deception I ever encountered was not run by any foreign adversary. It was the story I told myself every single day for 31 years. The story went like this. What I am doing matters more than what I am missing. The sacrifice is temporary. I will make it up to them later. They understand. They are fine. I am doing this for them. I told myself that story with the same discipline and conviction that I brought to every intelligence assessment I ever wrote. And it was the least accurate thing I ever produced. Here is the truth that no amount of clearance level prepares you for. The people in your life do not need your sacrifice. They need your presence. Not the version of you that arrives home exhausted and mentally still inside a secure facility. Not the version of you that sits at the dinner table but is really somewhere else entirely. The actual you, the one who listens, the one who sees them, the one who puts down whatever feels urgent and chooses what is actually important. That version of you, that is what they needed. That is what I could not give, not because I was incapable, but because I kept telling myself there was time. I was wrong. I have watched men at the highest levels of power make decisions that altered the course of nations. I have seen intelligence that would make most people unable to sleep for years. I have sat in rooms where the fate of thousands was discussed with the same calm efficiency as a quarterly business review. And I will tell you something that those men, those powerful, clearance-holding, world-shaping men would never say out loud. Most of them were running, not towards something, away from something, away from an empty marriage, away from children who had stopped trying to reach them, away from the quiet terror of sitting still long enough to feel what their life had actually become. The work was not the purpose. The work was the hiding place. And I was no different. I thought ambition was the same as meaning. I was wrong. I thought being needed by powerful institutions was the same as being loved. I was wrong. I thought postponing the personal for the professional was a form of discipline. I was wrong. I thought later was a real place I could eventually arrive at. I was wrong. This is the lesson, not just for intelligence analysts, not just for government servants, for every man who is working 70-hour weeks and calling it dedication, for every woman who is holding everything together professionally while her inner world quietly fractures, for every parent who is providing financially and disappearing emotionally, for every person who has mastered the performance of a successful life while privately feeling like a stranger inside it. The truth is simple. It is almost insultingly simple for someone who spent a career inside complexity. The most important work of your life will never appear in any performance review. It will not be measured by any institution. It will not earn you a higher clearance level or a bigger title or a more impressive legacy. It will only be measured in the eyes of the people who needed you to show up fully, consistently, without the mental reservation of someone who is always planning to be more present later. Later never comes. It is not a destination. It is the lie we tell ourselves to make the present absence feel acceptable. My daughter is 44 years old now. She is kind. She is successful. She built her life with remarkable strength. She built it largely without me. Not because I was absent physically, but because presence is not proximity. You can sit across from someone every evening for 20 years and never truly arrive. I know this. I know this the way I know very few things now, with the complete, undefended certainty of a man who has run out of reasons to keep lying to himself. The secrets I carried from that building, the classified truths about governments and operations and decisions made in darkness, none of them, not one, kept me awake at 3 a.m. the way this keeps me awake. The simple, devastating, ordinary truth. I had everything that mattered, and I was too busy protecting everything else to notice. Don't make my mistake. I am talking to you now. Not to a camera, not to an audience. To you, the one watching this, at whatever hour it is, in whatever room you are sitting in, with whatever version of this same story you are quietly living inside. I see you, because I was you, and I need you to hear what I could not hear when someone should have said it to me. Stop waiting. Not tomorrow, not after the promotion, not after the project is finished, not after the children are older, not after things settle down. They will not settle down. Life does not reach a moment of convenient stillness where you can finally turn around and give your full attention to the people and the moments you have been postponing. That stillness is not coming. I waited for it for 31 years. It never arrived. What arrived instead was a Tuesday phone call, a kitchen table conversation, a grey November morning, and a parking lot where a man stood alone, holding everything he knew and nothing that mattered. Don't make my mistake. I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually answer it. Not perform an answer, not think of the answer you would give if someone were watching. The real answer. Who in your life has stopped trying to reach you? Not because they gave up on you, but because they got tired of competing with everything you decided was more urgent than them. Think about that. Sit with it. Because I'd promise you with everything I have left, that the person who stopped trying is not indifferent. They are exhausted, and exhaustion has a limit. I learned that at a kitchen table. Much too late. You are not guaranteed tomorrow. I know that sounds like something people say, something that looks good on a wall, something you read and nod at, and then return immediately to whatever you were doing before. But I am 74 years old. I have watched people receive that truth as a sudden, irreversible fact, not as a motivational statement, as a phone call, as a diagnosis, as a door that closed before they were ready. And the ones who suffered most in those final moments were not the ones afraid of dying. They were the ones thinking about all the ordinary Tuesdays they had spent inside the machine, all the dinners where they were physically present and emotionally somewhere else entirely, all the times their child said, "Watch this," and they looked up from a screen for 2 seconds and looked back down, all the times their partner reached for them in the quiet of the evening, and they were too tired, too distracted, too deep inside their own urgency to reach back. Those are the things that wait for you at the end. Not the deals you closed, not the cases you solved, not the files you analyzed, not the titles on your door, the unreached hands, the unwatched moments, the later that never came. I spent my career identifying threats, real threats, sophisticated threats, threats that required years of analysis and enormous resources to understand and contain. And I am telling you, from the other side of a life, that the threat I never saw coming was the one I constructed myself, one postponement at a time, one later at a time, one almost but not quite present evening at a time, until one day the people I loved had built a complete life around my absence. Not out of anger, out of necessity. I am not telling you this so you feel guilty. Guilt without change is just another way of staying comfortable. I am telling you this because you still have something I no longer have. Time. Not infinite time, not guaranteed time, but the time that is in front of you right now. Today is something I would trade every classified file, every high-level briefing, every moment of institutional importance I ever experienced, for one ordinary Tuesday, done differently. Put the phone down after this. Not to be dramatic, not because this video told you to, but because there is someone somewhere in your life who is doing the quiet calculation right now. The one where they are deciding whether to keep trying to reach you or whether to finally accept the distance. And you have the ability, right now, today, to interrupt that calculation, to show up before they stop expecting you to. I did not do that. I thought I had time. I was wrong. Later never came. Don't make my mistake. I have carried government secrets for 31 years. Secrets about power, about decisions made in darkness, about the machinery behind the world. Most people believe they understand. But the secret that weighs the most, the one that sits heaviest on a man of 74 sitting in a quiet house that used to be full, is not classified. It never was. It is simply this. The most important room I was ever in had no security clearance, no code name, no strategic significance. It was just a kitchen with a window and a light on inside, and people who needed me to come home fully while there was still time.